I'm joined on this broadcast by Shilpa Ravi Chandra Kishore Reddy, senior member of the YSRCP. Jyotsna Tirunagari is national spokesperson of the TDP. We have Ashim Sanyal, chief executive at Consumer Voice. I have Rajiv Das Gupta, has been in the Food Safety FSSAI committee, also works on community health at JNU. We have Raman Dwivedi, technical manager at the FSSAI. And somebody who works with sophisticated industrial material analytics, SEMA Labs. They're amongst the teams that we collaborated with to try and get a sense of how safe these laddus really were. I want to go across first to Jyotsna Tirunagari because we started from Tirupati, which is where this controversy broke. And it is Mr. Chandrababu Naidu and the TDP government that took up this issue in a big way. From what we've seen in this India Today investigation, from the way the Supreme Court has been reacting, etc., it now seems in hindsight that that was a political attack on your opponent, Jagan Reddy. You could have attacked him any which way you wanted, but to use religion, to use people's faith, and then get everyone so triggered and alarmed. Our independent investigation seems to suggest that the laddus are perfectly fine. They're the way they should be.
Okay, good evening one and all, and a very happy Choti Diwali to one and all. Yeah, Rahulji, I think I would differ with you there when you first passed a statement saying that Supreme Court said, in fact, reprimanded Chandrababu Naidu garu to put politics out of it. It's not that about, Chandrababu Naidu garu being said that. Supreme Court rightly commented saying that because there were a lot of comments from the YSRCP and also TDP for that instance, talking about the laddu. They said the investigation is on, we have a set inquiry going on, so probably we have to keep politics apart, above it all. And that's one thing. Second thing, the test result and the sample that you have taken, Rahulji, my question is, when was the sample taken? The independent investigation that India Today conducted, I'm glad, I'm really happy because which is what we have been waiting for. When was this conducted and when was the test sample given?
No, so we gave our samples on the 25th of September to 2024 and the results came out on the 3rd of October. So they're different labs, different temples, different results. So, but basically this is after this controversy broke. Obviously, it didn't happen before.
Rahulji, yes, thank you so much for confirming that. And when this particular issue happened, that particular contractor who was supplying that, impure ghee or adulterated ghee, I would say, he was immediately blacklisted and the supplier was changed. So the new, and thank you, I think I should thank India Today for bringing in this, saying that now after the government has changed and after the supplier has been changed, the laddus now have no adulterated ghee in them. Thank you so much, Rahul.
Let me put that question to Shilpa Ravi Chandra Kishore Reddy from the Jagan Reddy party, the YSRCP. The TDP saying that they have no regrets, that the laddus are clean and clear now. There is heightened awareness because of the manner in which they front-footed this entire matter, because the supplier was fired, new suppliers brought in, that you and your party and Jagan Reddy were trying to play with faith, and now they've gone and cleaned up your act.
Rahulji, it's so sad that we're sitting here and have to discuss about the sanctity of Tirupati Laddu in front of lakhs of people. That is what they brought this entire thing to. Finally, there have been, like the Supreme Court had rightly said, it is a person of a stature of a chief minister going on record even before the SIT inquiry report had come and stating that it is the YSRCP that had adulterated this desi ghee in the Tirupati Laddu. It is such a blatant misuse of power. He has already given out a verdict saying, YSRCP has done this, YSRCP has done that. And then later, after that, they're trying to say, we will have an inquiry done and then we'll report it. It clearly shows that, they didn't have any proof to prove that, it has been adulterated. And then that's the only reason why they had to name YSRCP first and then they are constituting an inquiry later. And the Supreme Court rightly interfered and said, this is not what is supposed to be done. And they've included people from the central investigation team also joined the SIT. And also even today, that is what we've been trying to say from day one. Even our ex-CM Garu, Jagan Mohan Reddy Garu, and also the Supreme Court said, let's keep politics aside. I mean, let's keep gods out of politics. So that is, and also, right, when they said, after your report, glad that your report has come clean and said, there's no animal fat in the ghee. And it is the same thing. I mean, we have been saying, even the lab reports never said that there was animal ghee or animal fat in the laddu. And, whereas these people have claimed that, even the laddus sent to Ayodhya were adulterated with
Now, that's the problem, Jyotsna Tirunagari. In a bid to push back
kind of
Jagan Reddy and the YSRCP, you took the attack to such a level that you created doubts in the minds of people, not just about Tirupati laddus, but about laddus across the country. Now, everybody, when they're eating a laddu, are wondering whether that laddu is fake or genuine. Does it have real desi ghee or is it contaminated with animal fat?
Rahul, let me put a point here. Is it a sin or is it a crime to bring out the mischief that they have done? Is it a sin or crime to do that?
No, but your government spoke with finality even before the investigation report was out.
1 second. No. Let me complete. I'm sorry. Let me complete. The point here is we had a report in hand. The report was made public. And also, even after that, the special investigation team was doing the entire, investigation there. And here, I forgot about one point about Supreme Court because the Supreme Court commented on it when Y.V. Subba Reddy, the ex-TTD board chairperson, in fact, he had two different claims, one in High Court and one in Supreme Court. That's when Supreme Court commented, saying that keep politics out of it. Because he, in fact, went to Supreme Court as saying that I'm a common man, I want to talk about this. And in High Court, he says, I don't want any inquiry against me because I'm the ex-TTD board chairperson, and you cannot, the set cannot investigate me. So these are two different things. Again, keeping politics out of it. There were clear reports that the ghee was adulterated, and before we could get the reports done, the ghee was already used in the laddus, and those laddus were already used as prasad.
Okay, very quick word from Kishore Reddy before I move to our other guests, the experts.
So, see, again, they're the same story. They've been trying to politicize it again. The EO clearly said there was no adulteration done in the laddu, and whatever the rejected ghee was not used in laddus. And the other way, TDP people come forward and says, it has been used in laddus. And now after an inquiry is being conducted, and they still claim to, that YSRCP has done this. Where is the fairness in all this?
Okay.
And also,
let me now get in Raman Dwivedi.
I just want to bring one point there. So there have been instances, 18 times, if I'm not wrong, that ghee was rejected during TDP's time, during Chandrababu Naidu Garu's regime in 2014 to 19. Why was it rejected? What was the reasons behind it? And also, like they were saying that only Nandini ghee was used. How many times and how many months was it used during 2014 and 2019?
Okay. I want to go to Raman Dwivedi. Raman Dwivedi is a technical expert on food safety, working with the sophisticated industrial materials analytics, SEMA Labs. It's a private lab, and you've had an opportunity to, look at all these test results broadly, and I'll show our viewers part 3 and part 4 in just a moment. There are some variations, and in some places they claim that it is desi ghee, but it's not really desi ghee, it's vanaspati. But it's not as if any instance has been found of animal lard being used in the making of these laddus and prasad.
Basically, if you see, the ghee is basically an animal fat only. Ghee is a part of animal fat. Ghee is a part of animal fat. But if you see the 4 reports, in the last report, if you see that the linolenic acid, C18, if you clearly see that the FSI have the clear limit of 0.3 to 1. But they have showcased that value of 2.7, which is showcasing that the ghee is contaminated with palm oil or something else, which is showing the higher value of trans fat. But you can clearly identify from that report that the trans fat limit is going above the FSI limit. As in the SEMA lab, we are offering as a gas chromatography, we are testing from the gas chromatography, we can easily identify the trans fat limit, which is in the
Can
FSI.
I pause you to ask,
that the 0.3
sir,
to 1 limit.
in layman's language, if the trans fat is more than the food standard food safety standards. What does that really mean? How is it bad for me? And why?
It really means that it is matlab mixture of some palm oil or something which is going to make the higher value of the linoleic acid, which is a part of the trans fat. Basically, matlab if in the ghee you mix with some 80 content of palm oil or something like vanaspati ghee, so then it will raise the value of the trans fat, which can clearly identify from the gas chromatography only. If the customer want, or if the mandir authority or something temple authority wants to test them, so they can easily identify from the trans fat only. Or otherwise they have to look into the matter of the raw material. They have to also test the raw material also, like besan laddu. So they have to test the besan and the ghee and whatever the raw material they are using.
Understood.
So as per the FSI limit, they are clearly mentioning. Understood, na? So they are clearly mentioning that the besan plus sugar plus ghee, they all bear the mixture from, you have to test from the FSI as per the FSI regulation. Then you will get the clear
okay. So Ashim Sanyal,
basically
you're a consumer rights activist.
It is
from what I gather, the charge was that is beef tallow being used in the making of these laddus, which really for many Hindus would be sacrilege. While there are some impurities, so there is a certain level of public awareness that's being created through this investigation, that there are some impurities. Sometimes it's vanaspati, sometimes it's palm oil, it's not really desi ghee which is being claimed, but by and large that larger charge of there being beef tallow, in all the investigation that we carried out, that hasn't come out to be true.
So a very happy Choti Diwali and Badi Diwali to all my viewers. Rahul, the way we look at it as a consumer activist is basically whether the claim that is being made by the brand concerned or by the temple concerned is right or wrong. They may claim it is desi ghee, then it has to be desi ghee. If the claim is basically that it is made from palm oil or vanaspati, then that particular claim has to be accepted. None of them are going to create a heart attack straight away, in fact. But we obviously know that there are harms of using excessive palm oil or vanaspati. And coming to the point of trans fat, let me be very clear here that we were instrumental in banning trans fat, whether in vanaspati or in any other products, in fact. So FSI has clearly banned trans fat. There's no question of...
so why does it get used then? Why does it get used?
You can use, the trans fat, the natural trans fat will always be there. It's a natural thing, in fact, but artificial chemical trans fats are banned. So trans fat should not be found in other vanaspati or palm oil.
We have to use.
So there is a limit which has been set, and that is a natural trans fat. Others, we call it, as consumer activists, we call it zero trans fat, and that is what the claims you see on packaging of many products in the market, where the bakery or sweet meat products, in fact. And the second part of it is very clearly that when we say laddus have been contaminated by animal fat, in my interview almost 2 months back, I said very clearly that's very hard even for a lab to prove, because obviously ghee is a derivative of animal fat. Now it is processed in a way, that basically that animal fat which is natural appears in the chromatography of the laboratory, and we can say this is pure desi ghee. Despite we all know that it is coming from milk, and milk is basically coming from a source which is not natural in terms of its I would say constitution, in terms of chemical analysis. So in summary, I must say here, Rahul, that one is that one shouldn't mix politics with it, and I'm very clear even now that the verdict is still not out about the Tirupati laddus. And I'm very glad about the India Today survey and the report now claiming that...
That's the whole idea. Instead of panic, can you try and shed light instead of adding to the noise and actually do our own investigation, which is what we try to do. In the third part of Operation Laddoo, we collected samples from sweet shops in prominent temples in Lucknow, in Uttar Pradesh. And for testing these samples, we chose a state government lab. What did the results from Uttar Pradesh reveal? Find out now.
This is Lucknow, the capital of Uttar Pradesh. And we are outside the famous Mankameshwar temple. The chief priest here, Mahant Divyagiri, has banned the entry of outside sweets as offerings in the temple. This is what Dharma Yadav, a fourth-generation sweet shop owner, said about the ban and adulteration of sweets.
अगर उनको कहीं लगता है कि प्रसाद में कोई मिलावट कर रहा है तो उसकी स्पेशली आप जांच करवाएं। जांच में पाया जाता है दोषी तो उसके खिलाफ कार्रवाई होगी।
After taking the laddu sample from Yadav's shop near the Mankameshwar temple, we went to the famous Hanuman Setu temple of Lucknow to collect the laddu samples. Here, sweet shop owner Vinod Kumar Singh claims his shop is 60 years old and its sweets are made only in desi ghee. We took both samples to the UP government's Food Safety Department for testing in their labs. The report of the lab came after a week, and some of the findings were unusual. Hear what Vineet Singh, the Assistant Commissioner of the department, said about the samples.
2 लड्डू के नमूने यहाँ प्राप्त कराए गए थे। उसमें एक लड्डू का नमूना जो कि देशी घी से निर्मित आया है, कुकिंग मीडिया देशी घी इस्तेमाल हुआ है, बताया गया और वही आया है। और दूसरा नमूना जो है वो उसका जो हमारे ब्यूटेरो रिफ्रैक्टोमीटर रीडिंग होती है, बीआर रीडिंग बोलते हैं, वो 56.7 के आसपास है। तो वो दिखाता है कि ये हमारे कोई रिफाइंड ऑयल वगैरह है, वेजिटेबल ऑयल, उससे बना हुआ है।
So only one of the 2 Lucknow laddu samples passed the test. The one from the Hanuman Setu temple was made in desi ghee. But the laddus from the Mankameshwar temple were found to have been made with vegetable and refined oils and not desi ghee as claimed earlier. With Ashish Srivastav in Lucknow, Bureau Report, India Today.
So what emerges in that probe from Lucknow is that in one of the temples, it wasn't desi ghee which was used. And I think this really comes down, Rajiv Dasgupta, to the point that it has to be what you claim it to be. It's not as if using vanaspati is harmful or it will give you an immediate cardiac arrest. It won't. But if a temple or if a sweet shop outside the premises makes a claim, which is why these exercises are useful, the result from the labs has to be measured against the claim which was made. So if you're claiming that it has a certain composition, then that's what it better be. You can't say desi ghee and then try and cut corners.
Thank you, and Diwali greetings. Yes, of course, the claim will have to be substantiated, and that's what the food safety and standards machinery, the regulatory machinery is intended to be. Packaged products are tested before they're released or ought to be tested before they're released. What is in the informal sector, and some of these examples are not really in the formal sector. On the other hand, temples such as the scale of, say, Tirupati, who are manufacturing in-house and in such enormous quantities, 365 days, ought to have in-house laboratories. Say something akin to what flight kitchens do.
Sure.
Yes, please.
No, I think you're making a very important point. The idea that especially in a temple as big as, say, Tirupati or any of the big temples in the country where there's so much consumption, there must be in-house testing facilities where these laddus are tested all the time. Let me put that question to Ashim Sanyal. Is that something that you agree with? In-house testing facilities? Yes, please complete your point, Rajiv.
We need to make a distinction between 2 slightly distinct things. And this is a point made earlier by one of our co-panelists also. Whether it's meeting up to what the promised ingredients are, but on the other hand, does it also contain some other harmful ingredients which are actually directly punishable or which carry with it tougher punishments? These are somewhat distinct things.
A very important point. I want to draw Ashim Sanyal in on this. The fact that the suggestion is that there should be in-house testing laboratories in the big temples so that they are constantly testing. It shouldn't be this once in a year kind of exercise where it becomes a political hot potato. Consumers should know, devotees should know that what they're paying for, what they're believing in is what it is claiming to be.
Absolutely, Rahul. I mean, completely agree with this particular thought process that in-house laboratories for 365 days production in temples is absolutely should be mandatory and a must to safeguard the consumer interest, because batch by batch inputs have to be tested, and that can only be done for 24 hours working laboratory in such large scale. The second aspect that I want to bring up here is that FSSAI themselves are running campaigns and basically testing prasads in different temples across the country. And this system was started with the consensus in 2018, if I remember correctly. And FSSAI is supposed to be monitoring most of the large temples prasad on a regular basis. I don't know.
Okay, Jyotsna Tirunagari, will the TDP support this idea that at the Tirupati temple and at other prominent temples, there must be, it's not expensive, I mean, given the amount of resources they collect, it's relatively inexpensive to set up a high quality testing facility. Let devotees be sure of what they're eating and offering.
Already our government is doing it. In Tirupati itself, we are setting up a lab with the help of NDDP. It's costing around 75-80 lakhs, and we are already doing it, and probably in another couple of months it would be out and working.
Okay.
We have already started the process.
I'm glad to hear that. Our fourth and final stop was Mumbai's iconic Siddhivinayak temple. We've seen business honchos, film stars seeking blessings here. But is the prasad that is available at the temple pure? Divyesh Singh investigates.
Mumbai's iconic Siddhivinayak temple, where Lord Ganesh is known to fulfill your wish. Almost 2 centuries old, the temple's unique architecture and the beautiful idol carved out of a single black stone is a sight to behold. It's where the rich and the famous and the commoners all line up to seek blessings. 75,000 to 90,000 devotees visit Siddhivinayak in a day. The prasad, laddu and barfi is usually prepared in the temple kitchen and sold at the prasad counters outside in sealed red plastic pouch. While the temple claims to maintain highest hygiene standards, India Today decided to get food safety tests done by TUV India's lab in Pune. India Today's reporter took the prasad from the temple's official counter.
The prasadam, both laddu and barfi, were bought by me from here. Recently, there was a controversy regarding the prasad after a video emerged where rats were seen over it. The temple authorities ordered a probe and later declared that the video which had gone viral had been shot somewhere outside. So, is the prasadam at Mumbai's most famous temple pure?
And this is what the food safety results reveal. First, the famous Siddhivinayak Laddu. The food safety audit report by TUV India did detect fatty acid profile, but it was not beyond the limit set by Food Safety of India. Food chemicals mentioned on the label were also found to be within permissible limits. No chlorophyll, no heavy metals were detected. There were no bacteria, no synthetic colors, no arsenic, copper, melamine, and cholesterol were also in permissible limits. So the Siddhivinayak Laddu is safe. Now the barfi, that is also part of the prasadam. Here the lab test revealed the fatty acid profile was within the limit set by FSSAI. Copper, melamine and cholesterol were also in permissible limits. No chlorophyll, no heavy metals were detected. There were no bacteria, no synthetic colors, no arsenic, The samples of laddu and barfi tested by TUV India had no adulteration. With Divyesh Singh in Mumbai, Bureau Report, India Today.
So broadly, if we were to bring the entire investigation together, in most of the temples, the laddus which we sent for testing have come out to be safe. In some temples in places like Lucknow, there was contamination in the form of the use of material which wasn't what was claimed. So they claimed desi ghee and they were using cheaper material, whether it's palm oil or vanaspati, and therefore it was a misleading claim. I think the most important suggestion that's emerged really is that this must be a constant recurring practice, because it shouldn't be this one-off. You should have these constant facilities to check the safety of temples, and it can really be taken to other parts of the country as well. It shouldn't just be about Tirupati, it can happen at other temples, especially given how rich some of these temples are. I want to get a word from Raman Dwivedi after having seen this investigation and being a part of it and helping us bring it together. What's your advice to devotees, consumers who are watching at this time?
Actually, most of the things, basically batch-wise testing we have to do on the regular basis, so that we can identify what are the contaminants and what are the fatty acid updation is going on. And if we get the proper result, there is no panic situation is that, because in nowadays customer can also bring the sample to the nearby lab so that they can test. If some basic parameter, I can say butyric refractometer, they can easily identify that is pure ghee is not, because that is a value of 40 to 43. So finally, my verdict is that if the customer can go to the nearby lab, because in nowadays FSI and NABL is setting the lab, food safety labs nearby, and they can easily affordable, and you can easily test the regulation as per the FSI, and you can easily find that there is no heavy metal, there is no contaminants, and there is no synthetic color, and you should be panic, and you should do the whatever the sample you will receive.
And Rajiv Dasgupta, what I found problematic is how difficult it is to get something tested at these labs. I mean, we were ultimately able to do it, but if a consumer just wants to send something in for testing, the rules at this moment are such that it is very difficult to actually get a test report.
Yeah, it's not as simple as getting your blood sugar tested and walking into any pathology lab. It's certainly not as simple as that. Also, there are very complex regulatory dimensions. And for a customer to actually
no, but why should it be like this? If I want to get something tested, I should be allowed to get it tested. I mean, you don't need Aaj Tak, India Today, and a media house to be able to push this through. We had a lot of difficulty in getting this done. Kyun kara rahe ho, kya kara rahe ho, kya agenda? Arey bhai, testing kara rahe ho, what's the problem? I want to see if the laddu is okay. It wasn't easy.
No, of course, it shouldn't be inhibitory in any sense. But the onus really is on the sellers and producers. The onus is not really on the consumer. The consumer, I mean, this should be given for the consumer that a food or a drink item being sold in the market ought to be of the requisite standards. And that's where the responsibility of the producer and the seller, plus the responsibility of the regulator comes in. The consumer is really the final, front lines of consumption. He or she would certainly be bothered, may fall ill, and so on and so forth. But the onus of the moral burden is far more upstream, actually.
Okay, Ashim Sanyal, this idea that if you're watching and you want to get something tested, you can't easily do it. It's quite complex just to be able to get a test done. Don't you think it should be easier for any consumer if they want to get something tested?
So it's complicated throughout the world. Testing is not an easy process. First of all, in India, you must follow NABL lab accreditation process and procedure, and the samples must be collected rightly. It should be stored rightly, transported rightly. So these complications are inherent, Rahul, in the entire system of testing. So you can't bypass it and make it simpler. Is what we look at it from a consumer perspective. that we advise people to go to the lab, but we take that particular lab to be the owners of that particular sample, except the fact that it has been collected by a consumer from wherever he or she found it to be maybe thought it to be tampered and took it to the lab. Look, nobody is going to go to the lab if he or she is convinced that the quality is good. And the moment you see in the packaged goods the logo of FSSAI, the confidence comes in the consumer mind that this has got the government of India stamp of quality. I mean, I'm not going into the background about license number and things like that, but that's the consumer consciousness. My earlier point, I'm repeating again, Rahul, for the sake of everybody, in fact, that the FSSAI's role as a regulatory body comes in majorly in major production areas and the control therein. And for me, temples have large footfalls, and FSSAI did embark upon this particular journey of trying to test.
Okay. So I think we've covered important ground in this broadcast, and through this investigation carried out over 3 weeks, you have a sense of, what's right and what is also not so right in the way these laddus are being made at some of our biggest temples. I want to wish all our viewers a very happy Diwali. Thank you for watching the special investigation.